A few years back in literary studies, Anglistic literature, we had also a writing course, several. So of course we were supposed to um, polish up our expressions. At the time I had this really nice Northern English accent, apparently. Not sure how much of that's left, but one of the exercises was, the focus was on the rhetorics, but the sort of the frame exercise was to write about three principles that would form a perfect society. And apparently I was the only one who couldn't do it, because I had no clue what a perfect society was supposed to look like and what principles would ensure it. So I went to my teacher, who had a sense of humor. She was awesome. Just, she's one of the best teachers I've ever had. And but anyway, I went to her and asked, you know, just give me any three principles. I don't care. Just pick anything. Um, I'll write you something and make it sound like a good idea. And she picked three highly controversial ones, of course, with this evil grin. And I said, all right, gotcha. I'll go do that. And I did. I'm going to read it in a moment. But I thought at the moment, because I'm very much into Plato. Plato is very well known for hating the sophists. Do you say that? Depending on which perspective I'm taking, I would say they were the first professional teachers, which they were. Or if I'm more in this sort of outrageous, idealistic, Platonic vibe, I will say they're the whores of wisdom, because they sell their knowledge. How dare they? They have to live off something. They are not aristocrats. Awful. So I still thought, as she gave me these really highly controversial topics, principles, I still thought that's exactly what I'm doing here. Hopefully, you learn how to make something convincing by knowing something, and not just by applying some tricks to make it sound good. But what I'm doing here now is completely disregarding that and going, oh, I'll play with the words, I'll color it nicely. And I thought, okay, maybe I can do a double twist and make it feel threatening, but think it through so much that I can make it consistent, at least, so that you may still not want to live in that society, but so that it's consistent and that it's very hard to argue with, but you still feel uneasy about it. Let's just first get into it without any more ado. I'll say some more in the end. Yeah. Imagine me now very, very posh looking, because the form was a letter or a speech, and so this is addressed to my teacher, but I'll skip her name, of course. And I'm this ambassador from this society, so very posh, high status person. I thought about dressing up, but then I couldn't be bothered to dress up, so yeah. So here we go. Dear Mrs. I write to you in a matter of the utmost importance. It would seem to me, and all that stand with me, that your society views us as a threat, and that you waste of your precious resources on fruitless plans that aim to re-establish the old ideas that you call human rights with our progressing people. Well, we are not afraid of change. Because we are not afraid of change, we would rather embrace you in friendship and learn what wisdom you may have to teach. It is my duty, therefore, to rectify your opinion of what our society really is. You must know us if you are to be our friend. I therefore wish to explain the three principles of our society to you, and elaborate on common sources of misunderstanding. In the past, There have been struggles against institutions, and people raged against the concept of might, and they were right. The old idea was of a distributed prevalence, not rightfully earned might. There is not, and there could never be, something more just than earned might, obtained under equality of opportunity. That concept of regency did not survive, and never could have survived, because it was wrong. Might is application of strength. Applied strength is life and youth and certainty all in one. The top is in a constant flux. You are the top if you're right. No one will stay in a position he is not worthy of. Nobody is infallible, and failure must always be corrected. The cardinal sin is not to strive for improvement. You must never disobey your orders, but that does not free you from your share of responsibility. So any leader is constantly watched, and if mistaken, will be exchanged once his subordinates prove to his colleagues that he is a failure. Society needs stability, but not in the sense of the old institutionalized power that only paralyzed all structures and made society unable to adapt. The stability is embedded in the infallible truth of our first principle: might is right, and the right is mighty. Might, therefore, is no longer what it used to be associated with. Might nowadays is a matter of choice, and what once was the reason for uprise, when uprise was the only possible way of progress, is now the base of peace, as mindful and attentive adjustment is the road of an ever-ascending people. You see, might in truth is not an instrument of the wicked that one has. It is the name for a quality that you are, if you are. Cream floats. That is our second governing assertion. The best get to the top. The system's greatest strength is that it is self-organizing. Unlike democracy, which resembles trying to wash gold out of a river, we're a lot more certain to find what we seek. In democracy, somebody has to lift a lot of pebbles for the feeble hope of finding a grain of gold. This negligent attitude that takes no heed of the obvious chance of missing out on the best to us is unacceptable. We declare that all people have the right to rise, and therefore there is no election selection in our society. We govern through perfection selection. Cream floats upon mere water because that is its nature, not because you push it up. It could not be more obvious that this is the surest way to distinguish people by qualification and dedication. So we do not miss out on one of the good ones because we judge them by their deeds alone. There is no career that will lead to the top, and therefore nobody can be excluded from trying. Coming up is not the end that you could be assured of if you follow some meaningless schedule. It is the result of doing the right things, whatever they prove to be at any moment. The world is changeable, and the strong are those who can best adapt. But unlike in former capitalist societies, we will never tolerate lazy or weak leaders. All people are equally important in what they specifically do, but unlike former communist societies, with us people are encouraged to give their best. If in our society somebody should try to relax on the shoulders of others, if they should keep behind what they could achieve, they are by definition useless. Not trying for the best means to defraud society of the most valuable thing possible, ambition and inspiration, and thereby to prove your own unworthiness. There is no end to striving better. There is no end to striving to be better. The sky is no limit. There is no greater glory than to reach one's limitations. There is no greater shame than not to try. This characterizes the old, the wary, the cowards, and the outworn. Through trying to push your limits every day in our society, you become immortal. In our society, age is a matter of choice. We have heard that the thing that worries your people the most is our third slogan: the old are the useless. It is a fact, though, that is only grasping half of the meaning. We do not discard people of a certain age heedless of what they do. That would be an unforgivable crime. The useless are the old. That is the second side of the slogan. It is easily overseen by people who look at it with the intention to find fault. But once you understand it, there can be no doubt to its validity. People are old when they no longer strive. The old are useless, but nobody will ever be old until he is useless. We do not discriminate against people because they reach some random number of years. We have overcome the merely biological notion of age. We defy time. Life, sweet, vibrant life, is in everybody's own hands until the very end, whatever that may be, whenever that may be. To live a long life is the ultimate proof of anybody's virtue. Our age is in our signature, and it is the only form of medal that we know. We do not follow some mindless cult of youthfulness, as former fascist regimes have done. Old cells are those cells that are about to die, but the body will rejuvenate those cells it needs. You're never alone, unless you turn your back on the body. We fight the constant fight against the decay of society, and all cells need to be restlessly alert. Our society will overcome all limitations because that is the core of our being. We do not define ourselves by some anecdotal stream of historical randomness, but by our aliveness. We will prevail because we know this. We will prevail, and because we know this, we, as the first society in history, will never again need to be anybody's enemies. Enmity grows in fear, and we have no fear. There is only certainty. The certainty of what needs to be done next at each given moment. Do not stand against us, but join with us, learn from us, and teach us what you have to teach. We believe there is something we can learn from you for the simple reason that you're alive. You would not be alive if there was not something that you're doing right, and as you're different from us, that might be something we're yet overseeing. So join us and flourish. Envisioning an ever more brightening future, Sophia Mannherz, Department for Communication, Head Order for External Affairs, Ambassador for Fusion Project, 150 years. So that was obviously great fun, as you can tell. It's always fun to play with these things, and apparently it was good enough because my teacher made a note under it when she gave it back from correcting. She said, "God help us if you should ever go into politics," which I'm not planning on doing. I'm not sure how good this is to any real native speaker who does not judge it in the context of these are all German students I'm grading. So if it's good in that context, it could still be that this is really clumsy for someone who would be looking through different rhetorical texts all written by native speakers, and this would be in there. So, but yeah, obviously obviously the principles she gave me, I'll just repeat them. They were might is right, cream floats, and the old are useless. And yeah, it was supposed to feel threatening in this, charming way that I tried to act out, but still be difficult to argue with. So I really thought this through back then. Not sure I remember everything, but it was a quite good society frame, definitive streaks of Orwellianism, and it was supposed to feel threatening, so you feel the compulsion to criticize it. But then it's difficult to argue with if you actually sit down and say, okay, no, we'll argue this out. I'll not just discard it on, it feels not nice. And then, that was my hope anyway, you would either fail or have to go through a rather complicated discussion. So even if you succeed to tell yourself that this is not a good idea, it would still be difficult to communicate that to others. And I thought a lot about the background of that kind of power, because people who can write much better than me all have this kind of power of presenting something maybe with how do you say with bluffs and double bluffs. And on the one hand, of course, Plato writes about this so much, and that's where I want to take this. On the one hand, of course, imagine that you actually found a truth. You should be able to transmit it in a convincing manner, right? Because it would be good if people were convinced of the truth. But you can never really be 100% sure, or in many cases that aren't analytical, you can't be sure that you actually got the real truth. So, does that mean you should never try to be convincing? What else did I want to say about this? Yeah, of course, I have to apologize for the little bit of science fiction in there, which is the we decide when people age part, but that was what I needed to get the older useless thing to work. But I thought it's not too far of a stretch, because it's always been the case that the rich and the important have a better chance at long and healthy life. So this is just a little bit more pronounced, and possibly not very far in the future, that specific thing, who knows. Yeah. Yes, I'm still not sure about this this rhetorics part, because obviously it's important if you 100% really believe you have something important to tell. Of course it's important that you get it across. If you just think in interpersonal communication, you know, the other person is going to view what you say through a lens, and if you know how to make that lens translate what you say in a way that is close to what you actually mean, that would be great. It's still the same mechanisms that you would use if you were to manipulate someone, because you try to direct how they hear what you say. That is basically the skill that these sophists, do you say that in English? Sophisten, we say in German. These, yeah, the first professional teachers in ancient Greece. That were the skills they were teaching. They would pride themselves on saying, no matter what the point is you want to make, we can help you make a good speech about it. Remember it. We'll teach you the memory skills. We'll teach you how to present it, a little bit of acting, all of that. So I think, because Plato has Socrates employ these techniques magnificently, but also with a twist. I think he wasn't as opposed to using these principles as he's often made out to be, and he wasn't too angry, I think. That is my mind reading Plato over the stretch of nearly 3,000 years. I don't think he was too scared of people knowing these techniques. I more get the feel when I read a dialogue with Socrates, I more get the feel that he wants to heighten your perception of this, because Socrates uses these techniques all the time. But as this is a set dialogue, and the author has complete control over how people react, he can let Socrates do a very, very, very blatantly obvious manipulation and have everyone go along with it. And then you as the reader go like, but that didn't follow. No, now the conversation is going here. And then later they figure out, oh no, that wasn't right, okay, and then they sort of come somewhere back. But at first, you got your brain teased into expecting an answer, and then you were sort of banged in the face with the realization that, oh no, there was no answer, not a real one. So you start thinking about one yourself, which is one of the things I love so much about Plato, because his dialogues actually engage you as a reader, and it's almost like he's talking to you and you are compelled to react because of the way he's always tricking you. Yeah, so that, I think, is a fantastic way of using rhetorics, but I feel like we have a way too uncritical attitude towards them, because everyone is making it sound at the same time harmless and like a superpower, which is a contradiction. Yes. How can I say that in not half an hour? So everyone will tell you, if you learn this, this is your superpower. And at the same time, we always get flattered into believing that we ourselves would be able to see through it. And maybe that is because many of the techniques that are shown are really just first or second level. Anyway, the point I wanted to make was, try around a bit. This is just an invitation, of course, but try around a bit. Find something you really disagree with, or something that you find tricky, like this one. This society, in my view, I heard a lot of an industrial EBM kind of music when I was writing it, which fascinates me since over a decade, and I never really get what that what the gist of that fascination is. My best guess so far is that it's always playing with this notion of should you give way to something that is better than you, or do you have a right to not improve? Because a lot of this industrial emotion, a lot of the emotional background that is transmitted via industrial music, is about these machines getting so much better than us, and everything being more reasonable and more clear and better in every way. And I feel there's always this little, the strongest emotion I get in industrial music is hope. And that is this hope that when this happens, there will still be that thing that we call the soul. Like if that should happen, we won't be just a ghost in a shell, but a spirit. This is getting really rambly. So this is very much an industrial feel thing, and that's why I chose it, because I had to grapple with something that I found really difficult, because I don't know where I stand there. If I would want to be one of the last humans, sort of dying as a human, or if I would say, the Übermensch. Please, I know I'm German, but I didn't mean it in a Nazi way. I meant it in a Nietzsche way. Why not optimize yourself? Why not get better? Why not strive to always be better? In the Nietzsche sense, he says humans or man is something to be overcome. That is why I love humanity, because it's a bridge to something better. that's hard to argue with. So yeah, I'm not saying I finished that argument with myself, but I encourage everyone who made it to this point through my ramblings to challenge ideas that you're not sure about by writing different viewpoints on them and making them as convincing as possible. And in my case, this this nostalgic feel of the ancient world, and we have to stay with our ancient values and everything, that is so deeply ingrained that I didn't need to put that into writing and try to make it really convincing. But this one, yeah. So that's my invitation. Try that. If you come up with something cool that makes people that read it afraid, as this one did with some people, why don't you put it up? It'd be really fun to listen to, and have a lovely day. I think I'm going out into that storm. Bye.